Hello again, Internet, and welcome back to Shadowrun Dragonfall. Where I'd last left off, I'd just finished browsing a bunch of DVDs and settling in after a whole heck of a lot of hoopla at AG Chemi and the whole mess with the Mark VI. And just so much squish, crunch, and general popping. There was also a minor shopping spree and a few other bits of shenaniganry, but now it's time to settle in and talk to people. Like Dietrich. What you need, boss? So, back when we took on Humanus, you said you, fought in the Night of Rage. Tell me more, please. He nods, then fishes in his jacket pocket for his flask. Alright, boss. We can talk about it. So I already mentioned that Berlin's punks and anarchists joined forces to fight off the racists, right? And after a long, bloody fight, we beat them. What I didn't mention is how I figured into all of this. I'm an anarchist at heart. Always have been. But at the time, I fit squarely into the punk camp. I was 32 at the time. Messer Kampf was still touring, not as much as we did when we were kids, but we had a following. I guess I was sort of an elder statesman for the scene. When we rallied to fight the racists, my followers came along for the ride. A bunch of young kids, full of piss and vinegar and the immortality of youth. I was full of that old Dragon Slayer spirit, pissed off and itching for a fight. And so I led those kids into the fray. They waded into the ride alongside me, yelling and screaming with their fists in the air. I don't remember a whole lot of the fight itself, boss, but I do remember the aftermath. A lot of kids that followed me that day had grown up listening to my music. They had all of my attitude, true neutral. None of them had my magic. And youthful enthusiasm is no defense against a knife or a handgun. I left the punk scene for all the reasons I told you, boss. But there was a bigger reason, and I saw it in those kids' broken bodies. This road that I'm on leads to the grave. I've got the power to make it a leisurely trip, but make no mistake, that is where I'm headed. Those kids tried to follow in my footsteps, and they wound up sprinting ahead of me instead. Better for me to stay out of the public eye and stick to the shadows. My stint as a role model was ill-advised. Have you put any thought into what I said earlier about the Dragon Slayer and everything? Yeah, boss, I have. It's an interesting idea, but there are risks. I'm thinking that this might not be the best of times to approach him about it. He's the source of my magic, remember? If our discussion turns into an argument, he could take all that magic back in a heartbeat, and then where would we be? From what you told me about the Dragon Slayer, I don't think he'd like the way you're talking, since when has he ever encouraged you to back down from a face punch? You got a point there, boss. You wouldn't want me to back down ever, not even from him. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'll ask the Dragon Slayer about shifting priorities, I guess you could say. Taking on some deserving organization and calling off the hunt for something more impressive than the Fire Wing. Of course, a fight like that would never really end. I'm never gonna bring down a corp or a poly club all by my lonesome. He shrugs, but maybe that's not a bad thing, and take a lot of the guesswork out of life. Dunno, boss. If you have any thoughts about this, I'd love to hear them. Why bother tying yourself down? Keep it fluid. Punch anyone who's an asshole. He cocks his head. Interesting. That's a different approach, but I like it. Hang on a second. I'll ask. He closes his eyes and concentrates. Minutes pass. Slowly a smile creeps across his face. Dietrich opens his eyes and turns to face you. Yeah, I think that he'd like this plan just fine. That was it? That's all it took? The Dragon Slayer doesn't mince words, boss. If he didn't like the plan, he'd have told me. Dietrich's grin widens. He looks more at ease than you've ever seen him. Well, boss, I've got myself a plan and a new target to boot. That's assuming, of course, that any of us make it through our current predicament alive. You know, Dietrich, now that you've got your Dragon Slayer thing in hand, you could probably go poking your old community. Berlin's punks could benefit from you teaching them how to Sorcerer's Blast and Face Punch. He nods. Yeah, boss, I was thinking the same thing. Maybe I could give back a bit and fix some of the damage I caused in my misspent youth. After we finish dealing with the crisis in front of us, that is. That's a good thought, anyway. I'll keep it in mind. Anything you want to share about that last bit of hoopla involving A.G. Kemi? There was nothing about that run that didn't disgust me. What they did to that troll. Ugh. It wasn't right, boss. On any level. I don't care what anyone else tells you. You listen to me, True Neutral. What you did, killing that thing, it was the right call. Yeah, it cost us some new yen, but letting the thing live would have been a travesty. Any updates on Alexander? Nothing new, boss. He's adjusting. It's gonna take some time. And I guess that's it for talking to Dietrich. Let's go meandering. Because Blitz is clear across the Kreutz Bazaar. Specifically, oh boy. My organization is displeased with your performance in the AG Kemi Europa office. It would have been very easy for you to make some extra new yen by doing what we asked of you. Now, do we have any other business to discuss? Nope. Bye. Now, Blitz. Blitz. Yo. Blitz. At the sound of your approach, Blitz stubs out a cigarette. He gives you a curt nod. True Neutral, I'd offer you a smoke. That's my last one. You look distracted, Blitz. What did you do? Never distracted, Chief. Laser focused right here. But, you're right. I did keep looking at Emily, and I found something. After our talk, I went wading into all of the ass technology matrix hubs I could find. Nothing too deep, don't worry. Didn't set off any alarm bells. But I had a hunch that if I poked around long enough, I'd find something that might lead me to Emily. And sure enough, I did. A message from the genuine article herself. She messaged you. Sure enough, sent me a note. Want to hear what it said? Presses forward without waiting for a response. I'll tell you. The note said, and I quote, "Lay off, Blitz. I told you to leave me alone." Admirable self-control over the past year. Please don't give up on it now. I'll be back when I can, if I can. Till then, keep away from me for both our sakes. So, I found her, and she wants nothing to do with me. Again, no explanations, no apologies, just a verbal pat on the head. I've shown admirable self-control. Really? She makes it sound like I'm a toddler or something. So did she lay off, like the message said? Hell no! I wasn't gonna stand for that. So she get off stealing from me and then acting like it was my fault. You had to trace the message like any good Decker would. And did you succeed? No, she's good to neutral. Better than I ever thought she was. Couldn't trace the damn thing. I could keep digging though. I mean, if she must be doing it before, I must have been close. Now, before you say anything, I was more discreet this time. I can be subtle if I have to. Nobody noticed what I was doing, and I did find another clue. I hesitate to ask. It's okay, I'll tell you anyway. A connection between Emily and Cedar Krupp. So, do you think she works for SK then? That she stole the encrypted data from you to give to them? Well, maybe. I don't know, it's confusing. I was also able to track down some message fragments connecting her to the shock Willenrater. So maybe she was a got mole and she got close to me so she could, I don't know, so she could profit from my decking expertise? Maybe when she told me not to steal that data, she was using reverse psychology. It's gotta be it. She must have wanted me to take it. He frowns and shakes his head. But then again, maybe she's with the shock Willenrater and she's screwing both the Aussies and SNK over. If that's the case, then maybe she was with me because she genuinely wanted to be. Pauses for a moment, considering. Then all at once he seems to perk up. His chest puffs out. He nods decisively. In either case, I should make an effort to find her. I mean, she's playing a dangerous game, whether she's with SK or the shock Willenrater. Maybe she's gotten herself in too deep. She might need help. I mean, why else would she send me such a cryptic message? Blitz? Blitz, that message was anything but cryptic. She said stay away, which means stay away. Yeah, that's what she said, but I bet she didn't mean it. She probably didn't want to worry me, or maybe she said, I don't know, the duress. I mean, you've got to agree it's at least worth checking out. Blitz, no. When someone says don't, you don't. You worry too much. I'm the best, remember? So, where's the harm in digging a little deeper? I mean, Em might need me. This is how you acted? When you and she were together, I can kind of see why she let a runner. He recoils as if you'd punched him. Whoa! That's a pretty messed up thing to say, Chief. It's also accurate. You routinely ignore those around you because you think you know better. I'm here to tell you, you don't. At least not all the time. But Blitz, listen. You need to show some self-control and drop it. Blitz deflates before your eyes. He looks down at his shoes. Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, boss. You win. I'll let it go. That may have sounded like I was being overly harsh with him, but let's just say that in my reading, I found out that if you let him go after his girl, it screws him over a good deal more than demanding he lay off does. And now I'm approaching him again because I want to see what he thought of last crazy. As you approach Blitz, he gives you an easy smile. Hey, Chief, what's up? I know you weren't on the run, but any thoughts? His eyes light up in excitement. Mark 6 was an incredible piece of engineering, Chief. Never seen anything like it before. The fact that it was rigger-enabled, oh man, the potential ramifications of this technology are staggering. It's a pity that we had to kill the thing. I mean, I get it. It must have been horrible for the troll that they installed that stuff into. But it was a thing of beauty all the same. Right, talk to you later, Blitzy. Come on, Dante, let's go poke random people. Cammy. She looks up from her comm, idly blowing a gum bubble and quickly popping it. Hello again. Heard you'd been busy. Gossip travels fast, doesn't it? It's not gossip, it's work. It's survival, really. What makes it that you need to survive working like this? Well, you know, Altog always says, if you're not a spy, how will you know who is boss? She waves her hand as though to excuse her poor memory, or something like that. I'm just a kid, what do I know? Intel is important, but that should be a lesson for when you're older, don't you think? Cammy puffs up indignantly, and you realize how young she must really be. She couldn't be out of her teens yet. And what does that mean? If you're really gathering intel, you need street smarts, and you are still wet behind the ears. You'd be surprised what I know. But you don't seem like the perceptive type, so that is to be expected. She practically hisses her response, her eyes suddenly narrowed and venomous. She looks down and exhales. Then the clouds leave her bright face. Listen, I have better things to do right now than get ticked. We'll chat later, okay? Yeah, sure, just don't blow up in my face again, lady. Let's see, is anyone else willing to chatter? No, I don't think Simi is. Zach is always game to yammer, but that's just because he's the local drug dealer. Oh, right, and I still have a butt ton of karma. Anyway, Iger. True neutral. What can I do for you? Do you trust me, Iger? She pauses for a moment, considering. Finally, she nods. Yeah, I do. You've earned that much. I haven't always agreed with your decisions, True Neutral, but you've proven your competence. It's only fair for me to acknowledge it. Then tell me what happened to your team. This again? Why do you even care, True Neutral? It's pretty obvious that if you had your way, you wouldn't be here in the shadows, you'd be off with them. Since I'm in charge, I gotta know you people. She nods slowly. Alright, I'll tell you. I suppose that you deserve to know. What happened to us was Hoffman. He was a rookie. The kid of some big money corporate exec. He looks good on paper, and he made it through KSK training, so he was technically qualified to join a team. But he was way too green to fit in with ours. Still, he wanted to be a hero, and his family had enough clout to get him an assignment of his choosing. I don't know how many strings Hoffman's daddy had to pull to get him assigned to our team, but he pulled them. Hoffman became our 9th squad mate, despite Metzger's objections. Anyway, flash forward a few weeks. We were closing in on one of the Russian mob's major trafficking operations. They'd been using a series of warehouses 50 miles from the border as a staging area for their convoys. Women and girls from Eastern Europe were being housed there. When the convoys came, they'd be crammed into cargo containers and hauled across the border in Germany to go to any brothel along the border and have a look around. Chances are you'll find at least a few girls who spent some time in those warehouses. Slovakians, Hungarians, Poles, you name it. The law has been smuggling them over for decades. but we were in a position to derail their operation. And we weren't going to let our new addition slow us down. We hit them by surprise, and we hit them hard. Fisher and Braun managed to take down the Banshee that they had patrolling the site. Wolf had reconnaissance drones overhead providing battle tag feeds to the rest of us, and we picked off their gunmen one by one. They had numbers on us, but they didn't know where to hit us. We had eyes in the sky, and we had cover and concealment. Every time they thought they had a fix on us, we'd shift positions and hit them again. They might as well have been fighting ghosts. Then Hoffman broke cover and gave away our position. After that, all hell broke loose. Wolf went down first. The sound of it will haunt me for the rest of my days. Explosion and chokes, screaming in this long, drawn-out gurgling sound. When he died, his drones went down with him, and there were too many hostiles to track without them. I'll spare you the gory details, True Neutral. Suffice to say that my team was wiped out. Tiger's face clouds again. You can see tears beginning to well in her eyes. I watched Menska die. With a visible effort, she clamps down on her emotions and calms herself. When she speaks again, her voice is flat. I took 3 rounds myself. Had to drag myself back across the Oder-Neisse line back into Germany. I almost died. So that's my story. My KSK career died with the rest of my team. Our mission was illegal after all, off the books. There was no going back for me. So I wound up here. She looks you in the eye, her tone is impassive. Did that tell you everything you wanted to know, fearless leader? Are you satisfied now? Yeah, I am. Thanks, Iger. So, tell me, what's your takeaway from my tale of woe? I figure that you'd have to have one. When Monica died, you blamed me because I was the new guy. But, Iger, I'm not Hoffman. Yeah, she nods. I know that. And you are right, to a point. I might have judged you too harshly because of Hoffman. But everything else I said was justified. Giving you command of this team was a hasty decision, made for the wrong reasons. I stand by that assessment. But between then and now, I've been watching you like a hawk. You've grown, True Neutral. You weren't the right choice to lead before. I still believe that. But you are now. Hey. Thanks, I think. Good talk. She nods. Until next time. Next time being immediately now. True Neutral. You need something? Any thoughts on our last run? And the crazy terracing through hallways, running and gunning? I'm not gonna lie, True Neutral. This one's gonna stick with me for a while. What they did to that troll was sick. It's probably not gonna surprise you, but I'm happy that the Mark VI is dead. Yeah, Hirschmidt was pissed. And sure, our reputation got dinged. Neither of those are good things. But I'll take them over being a part of what they were going to do to that troll any day. Walking out of a run with a clean conscience is a rare pleasure. Savor it while you can. Alright, I will. And that's it right now, Iger. Glory, tell me of your face removal strategy. Oh boy. For the first time since you met her, Glory's expression seems to brighten. It's subtle, but it's there. You're sure of it. True Neutral. A pleasure, as always. Need anything from me? And, well, here goes nothing. My willpower is shit, but here goes. Without shifting your attention away from Glory, you allow your consciousness to partially slip into the astral plane. Third eye opens to the hidden world around you, and you feel the familiar tingle of dormant senses awakening. The room that you're standing in slowly shifts to match its true nature, like the expanse of gray, ugly, cold. Your own body, however, explodes into a swirling chaos of scintillating color. Ah! Oh god! The astral plane shimmers into view, you focus on Glory. You can still see her with your corporeal vision, her delicate frame, the bulky cyberware that breaks her silhouette, and the faraway look in her eyes, but laid over the top of her body, there's a slight shimmer. Her aura, damaged though it may be. The chrome that Glory is sporting is really isn't a number on her. Whatever she may have done may have been before she went under the knife, her aura is now reminiscent of the room she's standing in, a cold, dead thing, mockingly sculpted into a facsimile of life. Somewhere within that mutilated aura, a shred of humanity awaits, but finding it isn't going to be easy. Suddenly, Glory's body language changes. The look on her face is somewhere between suspicion and alarm. I got something in my teeth? You're staring. With an aura this shredded by cyberware and surgery, it's going to take a minute to gather any useful information. Just trying to figure you out, Glory. You've got a lot going on under the surface. I imagine that we all do, including yourself. And yet you don't find me gawking at you. As Glory speaks, you continue to focus, shifting through the void left by her vintage chrome to find the tatters of her original essence. Finally, you catch a glimpse of color, a flash of her true self. Behind it, something else. In a reflexive panic, your third eye slams shut. Yikes! The hidden world of the astral plane disappears from view, but an afterimage of what you saw remains, twisting in your mind. Oh god, what did I see? Glory is, or was, magically active. The shred of her essence that flitted past your vision left you sure of it. And what's more, you'd wager that she had real power once. Terrifying power, of the sort you can only guess at. All of this was sudden, but it was what you saw behind her aura that chilled you to the core. Something connected to Glory's essence, a metaphysical tether stitched into the fabric of her soul, reminded you of a leash. You can't say for sure it was holding the other end, but whatever it was enormous and ancient and cruel. And you can't shake the feeling that, as you looked into it, it stared back at you. Oh no! Trembling, you find yourself back in the mundane world. Glory is still staring at you, her neutral expression ever so slightly tinged with annoyance. We need to talk about what I just saw in your glowy bits. I knew this would happen. Look, my aura is my own business and none of yours. Understand? And look, I know you're protective of your past, and I can respect that, but something terrible is happening to you, and I can help if you will let me. It isn't happening. Glory's lip curls into a sneer. It happened a long time ago, and I fixed it. What you saw was nothing compared to how it used to be, and you shouldn't have been looking in the first place. She pauses for a moment, and the hard expression on her face softens. Look, I understand that you're trying to help me, and I appreciate it, I do, but I'm not ready to talk about this yet. Maybe when we know one another a little better, okay? Until then, just give me my space. So, how are you doing then? Golden as always, true neutral. No problems here. I didn't know any better. Given that you didn't just tear off my head for looking, I think you were warming up to me. She studies your face for a moment before responding. I suppose you might say that. I don't talk to many people, true neutral. It just doesn't seem to be worth the effort. I don't really feel that much anymore. Not since. She caresses the chrome of her forearm with a hand made out of articulated steel. This. If that's true, why are you still talking to me? I suppose because you've shown an interest. And because you haven't let me push you away. She locks eyes with you. Her expression is blank. I don't want to mislead you, True Neutral. I still don't feel anything. Not warmth, or friendship, or even trust. But I can appreciate the effort you're making. It's something new, and it's worthy of exploring. Ready to tell me about that chrome that's all over you? I'm getting there, True Neutral. But you'll have to give me some time. The answers will come when they do. You said things went a little, screwy when you turned 14. I'd like to keep talking about that if possible. She stares at you, her face expressionless. No, I'd rather not. Why not? Because I don't see a reason to. The memories are unpleasant, and dredging them up doesn't serve any real purpose. You're kind of wrong about that. Last time we talked, it actually had an impact. You felt something. That's reason enough to keep going. She pauses a moment to consider your words, a troubled look on her face. I suppose that's true. Feeling discomfort is better than feeling nothing at all. Alright, here's the deal, True Neutral. I'm going to talk. You listen. When I'm done, I'm done. No complaints, no arguments, and we'll see what happens. Deal? Deal. Right. The 1,000-meter stare creeps back into Glory's eyes. A moment later, she's locked away in her own head again, reliving memories that she's long since filed away. So, a few days after my 14th birthday, I began to express. Magically. And judging from what I saw in the aura, your awakening must have been nuts. It was actually fairly standard. The real power didn't come until later. But we'll get to that. There's another long pause, and Glory becomes more animated. Anyway, I turned 14. I awakened. I don't remember how my parents found out about it anymore. I think my dad caught me playing with a tiny city spirit that I coaxed out of a pile of garbage. Something like that. Everything that happened afterwards, those days are kind of a blur. What I do remember is my author's response to the revelation that his little girl was a witch, a hexe. He beat the living shit out of me with his fists, and then his belt, and then a claw hammer he grabbed out of his toolbox. All the while my mother was screaming and flailing at him. She took a couple licks at the hammer, too. I would very much like to shoot your dad. It's a common sentiment, believe me. But I appreciate the thought. It's like, yeah, you don't beat on your kids like that. Anyone who does that deserves it. Yeah. So finally, after what felt like an hour, Dad stopped tuning me up with the hammer. I had broken ribs, a busted arm. I couldn't see out of my left eye, and my entire right side was covered with one giant bruise. I was bleeding all over the place, making a real mess of the carpet. The old bastard spat on me, his bleeding, crying daughter. He spat on me and told me I was des Teufels Hur, the devil's whore. Then he kicked me out of the house. As I was crawling away, my father told me that if he or any of his Kreuzritter brothers ever saw me again, they'd treat me as the Berlin chapter treats the enemies of God. If you're not familiar with how the Kreuzritters here in Berlin deal with heretics, it's decidedly less pretty than what my dad and his buddies did to their victims. I got the hint, and the next morning I hitched a ride out of Stuttgart. You were human, though. Presumably with ID. Why didn't you hit a hospital? Oh, I did, but not in Stuttgart. If I went to a local hospital with the kind of injuries Dad gave me, there'd be questions, and I couldn't afford to stay in town any longer than I had to. Even if my dad wound up getting arrested for beating me, the rest of the local Kreuzritters would have found me, and I'd have wound up skinned alive and thrown into the Neckar. I wound up in Tübingen. I figured it'd be a safe enough place to find medical attention and maybe call home. It's not far from Stuttgart, but it has a huge student community, so I figured I could blend into, and the university there has a decent magic department. My ride dropped me off at the university hospital, and they patched me up pretty good. Had some questions for me about how I got so beaten up, but I lied and told them I'd been mugged, which played nicely into my complete lack of cash, credit, and identification. Glory pauses for a moment and looks down at the floor, then fixes her eyes on you. She is visibly tense. We're gonna fast forward through the next few years. I was a kid on the street. I got by as best I could, doing whatever I had to. The rest you can leave to your imagination. Good? Yeah. You did what you had to. I'm no stranger to that sort of weirdness myself. We, after all, shot a man for similar. She nods. I figured you'd understand. So anyway, I lived on the street for a few years. Got used to being hungry all the time. Got used to getting rained on. Got by. I was painfully aware that I had magical talents, but without any kind of training or guidance. I didn't really know how to use or develop them. Truth be told, they scared me, so I more or less ignored them. So it just sort of went like that until a few days after my 17th birthday. Then I met Marta, and everything changed. Marta was a sweet girl. At first, I took her for a street kid like me. Clothes were a little ratty, and she seemed comfortable being near me. But she also looked well-fed and happy, and those were two things I hadn't been in years. We started hanging out, and before I knew what was happening, I was in love. There was a genuine attraction between Marta and me, I think. But I also think that a lot of my affection for her came from the fact that she was the first person in years to give a damn about me. She cared, and I loved her for that. Lori pauses. She looks flustered, but her composure cracked. Keep on going, Glory. She stares at you for a beat and then nods. A few ragged breaths later, she continues. Marta told me about a place where she'd been hanging out. She invited me to join her there. It was called Förstel, the fireplace. It was sort of a commune for dispossessed youth. It turns out that a lot of street kids I'd known over the years had moved there. The way they disappeared, I'd assumed they'd been kidnapped or killed, or had gone back to their parents. But there they were. I remember being kind of angry about it. How did everybody get the memo about this but me? Marta calmed me down. She was good at helping me through my feelings, and I wound up following her to Förstel. To a street kid, it was basically paradise. The owner, a guy named Harrow, had set up this little farm just outside Tübingen in the Schockbuch forest. The Schockbuch is officially a nature park, but not many people go there nowadays. Too much fear of paranormal animals, I guess. Anyway, park or not, it was plenty big enough for us to hide in. It was also safe and pretty, and the farm was well stocked with food. Most importantly, Förstel gave us a sense of community and stability that we'd never had on the street, and we loved Harrow for that. He became like a surrogate father to us. Glory pauses again, and you recognize a distinctive flush in her cheeks. She seems to have come out of her reverie once again. That's enough for now. I need to process all this, and I don't want to continue forward until I've had the chance to do that. I know that all this happened years ago, but I guess it's still pretty raw to me, so I'm going to ask you to give me some space for a while. She turns away. The frost begins to creep back into her voice. We can pick it back up later. Yeah. Later being after one very deranged job. I gotta process this too. Dante, come here. There's a lot of this nonsense that I also gotta process. So, if yammering at teammates and decidedly real anger at abusive situations and incompetence are amusing for all of y'all, feel free to comment on the video, throw a like at it, and if you want to see more, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I will see you all around the internet.